Hey guys, Jonathan Phillips, Max Muscle, Huntington Beach, along with
Sean Torbati, High Performance Nutrition.
Sean Torbati. Do you go by another name?
I am occasionally known as AKA Rich Homie Sean.
You have a Snapchat?
I do. It's Rich Homie Sean.
Rich Homie Sean on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Well, today, guys, we're going to
Do
go
you know how to
over...
work Snapchat?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to do any of that computer stuff. I'm an old man. We're going to go over today how to start a nutrition plan. What do I do if I don't know what I'm doing? How do I even do anything? Which is a common question we get here at the store. I know how I do it. How briefly do you set someone up on a basic nutrition plan?
Right. This is a little overview and just something that you guys can use at home so that if you don't have the ability to come in or get on the phone and talk with Jonathan or come in the store, because that's obviously the best way.
Right.
One-on-one, consultation, advisement, really helping you tailor things to yourself personally and your lifestyle. But the first thing I look at when you want to set up a nutrition plan is, what are you eating right now? Let's kind of get a feel for your habits. Let's have you write down what you eat on a daily basis for a good 2 or 3 days if you want to get a good baseline average. Then I'd have you go online and I'd have you log it and figure out what's in it. And just see where you're at, like see where your carbohydrates, protein, and fat are, just for your own info to know what your current lifestyle looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Then what I would do to try and set up a new plan is I would figure out how much you weigh, what your activity levels are, and what your goals are. Those are 3 questions you need to ask, right?
Standard.
That's
Standard.
it. How much do you weigh? What's your activity level, and what's your goal? So from that, we can kind of figure out where we want to place your calories.
The best part on how to make a plan and where do I start is make a plan.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What goals do you have? How much are you eating? What are you eating? And the problem is people have no clue what they're eating.
Right.
But anywhere you go now is telling you how many calories, for the most part, should be in it. You can Google it. You can do anything. You have to find out exactly how many ounces equates to this. So when you go out to eat, and we're not saying don't go out to eat, but you have to know what you're doing. What choices can you make? Does it come with oil? Does it come with butter? And these are very basic things that can make a huge difference in your physique. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Sean's videos when he goes on the road with Mark Lobliner and Doug Miller, which you can see on the Gains tour. But everything is dry. No oil, no butter.
No lube.
No lube. I've seen that too. So you got to know what you're putting in to start this process. And the biggest thing for me is protein. You got to make sure you have plenty of protein in your body. Hair, skin, nails, bone, and muscle is all made of protein. And the older we get, our bodies begin to deteriorate. We have to make sure there's enough protein in our body just to feed our body. That's not even training. And when you start training and the process is to tear down muscle tissue, you can't rebuild it unless you have ample protein. So we want to make sure you know what protein sources you can do. What generally are those sources?
I recommend lean protein sources, although you could use fattier ones, I guess, but I prefer lean protein sources like chicken breast, tuna that's not packed in oil, it's packed in water, halibut, any of the white fishes, ground turkey breast, really lean beef, like 93.7 or 96.4 ground beef,
right.
Filet steaks, stuff like that. All these protein sources have something in common. They don't have a lot of fat. Obviously, meat doesn't have carbohydrate, if you didn't know that, and they pack a lot of protein. So I like those as whole food sources. And then the big thing that I like to incorporate in my lifestyle, as well as anyone that I work with nutritionally, is a protein powder. It's a no-brainer for me. And I think there has been a lot of over-marketing, which is the fault of some companies in the supplement industry, about making protein into a magic powder that you drink and muscles grow. And it's like a fertilizer for plants, But it's not that. Even steroids aren't that. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Sure.
But the protein is necessary, like we spoke about, and we need a lot of it, as it turns out. So whatever your weight is, you could probably, as a safe guess, you could probably multiply that by 0.8 if you're on the lower side of how hard you train, and as high as maybe 1, just a straight 1-to-1 ratio of your weight in pounds, not kilograms for all you foreigners. Get on the right boat here. American way is the only way. Your weight in pounds, if you're not very active and training very hard, then you would multiply it by about 0.8. If you are, then maybe as high as 1. So if you weigh 170 pounds like me, that would be like 170 grams of protein per day if you're on the high active training side, which I'm trying to be, or if I wasn't, maybe more like 150 grams a day.
Right. So I definitely use protein powder because I'm 260 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me, or nor do I really want to, eat 260 grams of food protein.
Even 170 grams is not that enjoyable. You're getting about 7 grams of protein per ounce of those lean meat sources I was talking about.
Right.
If it's a fattier meat, it's even less.
Sure.
So 7 grams, that means that if you want 70 grams, you need to eat 10 ounces. So if you want 140 grams, you need 20 ounces. If you need 210 grams, like maybe a 200-pound guy would, you need 30 ounces of meat. That's almost 2 pounds of meat a day.
Yeah. So I'm at about the 3 to 3.5 pound mark, and that's just too much food. So I utilize protein shakes, but you definitely want to make sure you're getting something that's going to benefit you. If you can't eat ice cream, and you generally can't eat cheese because it upsets your stomach, you don't want casein. This is a very common protein that a lot of companies put in their product, and the people selling it don't know what it is and why your stomach hurts. So if you can't do a casein, which is in the Max Pro Elite, which is a blend of isolate, concentrate, potassium caseinate, and micellar casein, you use our famous MTS Nutrition by Mark Lobliner, which is an isolate concentrate mix.
Right. So you need to determine, when you're talking about the powders, what's the right fit for you. You could use something like Max Pro if you want that sustained release, slower digestion. You could use something like the MTS Whey any time of day, really, but if the casein upsets your stomach. Or, I'll put it this way, if you don't want any animal byproduct at all, you could use Pro Zero, which, hang on. I got bills. Pro Zero, plant-based protein, naturally flavored and sweetened. Again, another differentiator. If you don't want to have sucralose or an artificial sweetener, we have that hippie protein for you.
And with the hippie protein now, on the new reformulation, which is fermented with
BCAA, so fermented amino acids.
Yep.
Yeah. So sun BCAA, you get the complete amino acid profile that a lot of plant proteins were traditionally missing.
So the same amount of branch chains that are in here are also in here without dairy, which is whey. So if you have any lactose restriction, we have the HPN protein, all certified, all tested, in a multitude of flavors that are coming out. We have 2 currently now. Natural whipped vanilla and whipped chocolate.
Yeah, so picking your protein source is the first step. The second is incorporating it into your lifestyle. So let's use me as the example, the 170-pound person, just the little young natty trying to make his way in the world. If that's you and you need to get 170 grams of protein per day, the next thing you're going to want to do is figure out how many meals works for your lifestyle.
How do you do that?
For me, I just determine how long am I awake and how long can I go between meals. So it ends up to be about 5 meals is good for me. So 5 meals for me, spread throughout the day, about every 3 hours is perfect.
How much protein can you ingest per meal though?
There's actually literally no limit to it. That's kind of a fallacy in the nutrition industry that you can only take in a certain amount per meal. I know guys, and research has demonstrated, you can take in all of your food for the entire day in one sitting if you want to, but it's not optimal. You will digest and absorb all of it. If you couldn't, there'd be no such thing as obesity, and yet here, if you go down the street, 1 out of 3 of us is obese.
Right.
All the food you eat is absorbed, all the protein you eat is absorbed. However, what's the optimal way to do it? In my opinion, it's kind of spreading your meals out evenly in smaller portions so that you can keep your insulin levels under control, so that you can have even energy throughout the day, and so you don't feel so bogged down and lethargic.
And also, too, you don't want to have all those meals in one session because maybe that's why you've put on weight.
Could be.
You're eating too many calories in one meal.
Yeah.
Your activity is limited.
Yeah.
So we want to space out the meals to consistently feed your body to actually burn all of those calories.
Right, exactly. So I will space out protein evenly through the day. So if you're in the situation where you're 170 pounds, you have 5 meals per day, that'd be about 35 grams of protein per meal in each of my 5 meals. So whether it's going to be from 5 ounces of lean meat or it's going to be from a protein powder like a scoop and a half, either way, it's going to be what the meal is built on for everyone. Protein is always going to be the backbone of your meal plan, which is why we're talking about it first.
That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, where do you want to go?
That would be your carbohydrates and fat, actually. So what I talk about next is the total calorie needs.
Okay.
So whatever your weight is, a good safe estimate is to multiply it by about 17 to 18. So whatever it is, I'd have to get a calculator out. Luckily I have one. Whatever your weight is, you'd want to take that and multiply it by about 17 to 18. So for me, the 170-pound young natty, 170 pounds times 17 is about 2,800 calories. This is a good maintenance level of calories for me to start at. Everyone's body and current metabolism is different, so that's just a starting point. I want to stress that. So I have my protein number, about 170. I have my total calorie number. Once I deduct the amount of calories in my protein, which was 170 times 4, which again, I'm not an abacus, so 170 times 4, 680. Apparently this man is an abacus, it's because he doesn't know how to use a computer. So if I had 2,800 calories and I minus 680, that's 2,120 calories left. What I would do now is split that up between carbohydrates and fat. For me, fat is best kept at a level that's just the amount that you need to run correctly, both hormonally and immune system wise, and there's some benefit for hair, skin, and nails
Which
as
is
well.
how much?
That's going to be about, for me, it's going to be about 60 grams. For most people, it's somewhere between 60 and 100 grams. It's never really too much more than that, and it's not too much less than that, even in smaller females.
So even 60 grams may not seem like that much, but there's 9 calories per gram of fat, so now you're over 500 calories just in fat.
So let's say that I was to go ahead and set my calories for fat at 50 grams even. 50 grams of fat for the day times 9, it's 450. I had 2120, and if you follow along here, I know it's a lot of numbers. That leaves me about 1,600 more calories.
And 1,600 calories, which is nice, divided by 4.
That's about 400 grams of carbohydrate.
Which is the amount of calories in the carbohydrate. You have 400.
Yeah.
That's how you start.
Right. That's a starting point, and then you kind of would spread those macronutrients, that 170 grams of protein, that 50 to 60 grams of fat, and that 380 to 400 grams of carbohydrates. You would spread it out through your day and through your meals, centering maybe more of the carbohydrates around your workout before and after, and spreading the fat also evenly pretty much throughout your day. And that's a baseline, guys. That's a good basic way to set up a nutrition plan to figure out, is this working for my body? Let's get this plan going and let's see what I want to adjust after a few weeks. The big thing I see with a lot of people who've been eating like, I'll just say it, like shit. They've been doing whatever for 5 years, 10 years. They make the switch onto something like this, some kind of regimented, controlled plan. Their body's going haywire. It's like literally like that time when you're in between radio stations. If you have one, you'll remember radios like this.
Yes, sir.
That you have to tune with a knob. And you're over here on one end, and then you want to be over here. There's a lot of static in between. They haven't gone to the new station yet, and their body's in chaos, and they're not hearing any kind of hip-hop or country. They don't know what they're listening to. The body's not running correctly. It takes 3 to 5 days to really settle in to a new pattern of eating. So it will not be comfortable maybe for the first or second day, but after that, you'll start to settle into it, and you'll feel a lot better.
How long should we stay on a plan before we see if it's working or not?
For me, it's minimum 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks minimum before you make any adjustments, because if you're not giving it that long, you're not letting changes happen at the cellular level, at the hormonal level, and even just at the water level in your body and glycogen balance. You're not letting these things all kind of settle down based on your new plan and come to a new level of homeostasis to figure out where you are.
And with those 2 weeks, a lot of people will come into the store and they say, I've eaten great for the last 2 weeks. Well, what have you eaten? And they don't write anything down.
Yeah.
Or how much chicken did you have? And they told me this much. No, we have to know. You have to know. Get a food scale.
Yeah. There's a saying that Doug Miller and Mark Lowline and I came up with in Australia, which was, plan it, don't track it. And that speaks to the thought that you can either do this one of 2 ways. If you want to get ready to switch over to a plan like this, you can either go through your day and every time you eat, write it down and log it on MyFitnessPal or another app like that, or you can plan it all out ahead of time and then just follow it throughout the day, and then not have to do any of the logging because you're just following a set plan. I prefer, and Doug and Mark prefer, that second approach. We prefer to plan it and not track it because whipping out your phone or a notepad every time you go to eat gets exhausting. It gets annoying. Your friends will think you're weird and you're taking notes about them. It's not really that cool or conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Whereas planning it out ahead of time and typing everything down the night before and setting yourself up a plan that you're going to then follow and execute tends to be a lot easier for compliance.
So come into the store if you need help. Max Muscle Huntington Beach. But one thing I do want to comment on, you still want to have some type of physical activity. How much should you do if you're just starting out again?
I think for the weight training, resistance training, 30 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week to get started for your first month or so is excellent. Sometimes what we see is people jump into plans that are way too vigorous for them, and they end up either hurting themselves or burning themselves out because they can't maintain that commitment level.
But a typical thing that I get from women is, I don't want to get too big. I don't want to lift weights. Is that good or bad?
Yeah, I always just tell them, don't worry, you don't. Because here I am at 170 pounds, and let me promise you that if I could be 210 pounds, I would be. It's very difficult, even as a man with adequate testosterone levels, last time I checked, it's still really hard to gain lean muscle mass. It's not too hard to gain body fat, but it's hard to gain muscle. So ladies, you're not going to gain an excessive amount of muscle. You're not that awesome. If you were, trust me, you'd already know. You'd already somehow be competing in the Olympics.
That's right.
If you were one of the outliers that could build muscle better than men could. Because men are set up to build more lean muscle, and we still have a hard time with it. All you're going to get is a tighter, sexier, and curvier body with a better metabolism. That's it. And more confidence because you're going to be stronger.
Make a plan. Follow the plan. 30 to 45 minutes of some type of physical activity. How many times a week to start out with?
4 to 5 times.
4 to 5 times a week. If you need help, go get guidance. That's what we do. Max Muscle Huntington Beach, 714 Adams, Huntington Beach, California. We got everything you need, from pills, powders, potions to lotions. You want it, we got it. You need it, we can get it.